Walk in the footsteps of Darwin and rediscover the Galapagos Islands, which have changed little over the past centuries. This is one of the few wildlife sanctuaries left where animals know no fear of man and can be approached closely. Indeed, some animals won't wait for you to approach them, they'll approach you. You can swim with the sea lions, turtles and penguins, or get within wingspan distance of a waved albatross feeding her chick. Also closely observe a giant tortoise. Or see a marine iguana sunning itself on a rock. The Galapagos archipelago consists of 13 large islands with many smaller ones. They lie some 600 miles off Ecuador in the Pacific Ocean. First formed by giant volcanoes and being on the equator, they're influenced by both hot and cold currents, helping to create a variety of marine life found nowhere else in the world. Since the islands were never connected with the mainland, all species found there now must have crossed 600 miles of ocean, either by swimming, flying, or perhaps floating across on vegetable rafts. Egg larvae or seeds could have traveled less conspicuously in animals' stomachs or stuck onto birds' feathers. Most of the islands have 2 or even 3 titles. The earliest charts gave the islands both Spanish and English names, and the Ecuadorian government assigned their official names in 1892. So an island can have a Spanish, English and official name. Galapagos means saddleback in Spanish and was used to describe the shape of the shell found on a particular species of giant tortoise. Historically, buccaneers named them Las Islas Encantadas, the Bewitched Islands, because the strong and variable currents made navigation difficult. They were officially discovered by the Spanish Bishop of Panama, Fray Tomás de Berlanga, in 1535, when during his journey from Panama to Peru, his boat sailed off course and arrived in the Galapagos. For the next 300 years, whalers, pirates and sealers used them for shelter and fresh water, taking thousands of the giant tortoises on their ships to be kept alive for up to a year without food, to provide the sailors with fresh meat during their long periods at sea. Fur seals were mercilessly hunted for their pelts, which decimated their population in the process. The islands first came to world attention when Charles Darwin visited during his world voyage in HMS Beagle in 1835. His book on the origin of species, published in 1859, based on his observation made during the 5-week visit, gave the islands a world reputation as the living laboratory of evolution. With its spectacular wildlife and hauntingly dramatic landscape, It's not difficult to see why these remote islands have served as an inspiration to both naturalists and scientists. In those days, the Galapagos were virtually inaccessible, being very expensive and difficult to get to, with no real means by which the traveller could comfortably see the islands. Also, the interest in the natural universe and issues such as wildlife conservation weren't as widespread as they are now. Things have changed since then, and today it isn't difficult to get to the islands at all, with daily flights from mainland Ecuador. The best way to see the wildlife is by taking an organised cruise. And although this may seem a little too structured for the independent traveller, it is the only way to gain access to many of the landing sites. These have to be visited with a guide from the Darwin Research Centre. There are many categories of boats, ranging from luxury to economy. Luxury boats will have cabins fully air-conditioned with ensuite facilities and will be more comfortable at sea. Whichever boat you choose, whether a motor vessel or traditional sailing yacht, the single most important influence on your cruise will be your naturalist guide, who will be vital in introducing you to the islands. If you want to do things in your own way, there are some hotels on the islands, although quite basic and limited to 2 small towns. You can take day trips from there, but you'd almost certainly see less and find that many of the islands are too far to be reached in one day. A typical day on board might consist of going ashore after breakfast by dinghy or panga, as they're known locally, where you'll have a dry or wet landing, depending on the particular site. And on occasion, you may be greeted by a friendly sea lion. The prolific bird life includes blue, red and mask-footed boobies, and magnificent frigate birds with their inflated red pouches, which they display during courtship in a bid to attract a passing mate. Nicknamed the pirates of the sea, they'll bully smaller birds into dropping their food. They then swoop to catch the stolen meal in mid-air. This happens because the frigate birds have very small preening glands and are not able to secrete enough oil to waterproof their feathers, and therefore are unable to dive underwater to catch their prey. Their wingspan, over 7 feet, combined with the largest wingspan to weight ratio of any bird, provides aerobatics which never fail to entertain. The blue-footed boobies equally impress with their fantastic rocket dives, which they'll do in groups with perfect synchronization. Pelicans, on the other hand, are less streamlined, if not downright clumsy by comparison. These islands are truly an ornithologist's paradise. On returning to your boat, there may be time for a pre-lunch swim, and afterwards, sailing to another visitor site, perhaps up to 2 hours away, an opportunity to siesta on deck until you reach your destination. Dolphins may often accompany your boat, riding the bow wave in groups. Each shore visit is a few hours long, giving plenty of time for snorkeling during the day. Swimming in the Galapagos can be full of surprises. A harem of sea lions may gracefully weave their way round you, often coming up to your mast and looking you over with the playfulness of a dog. The uniqueness of the Galapagos Islands is reflected underwater. Almost 1/4 of the marine life is found nowhere else in the world. Diving enthusiasts won't be disappointed and will see something different on every dive, where the unexpected happens on a regular basis. Encounters with sea turtles, spotted eagle rays, or marine iguanas will be numerous, and you'll usually find these swimming alongside reef fish and penguins darting in front of you searching for food. It's not unusual to find yourself surrounded by a school of hammerhead or white-tipped sharks, whilst observing the gracefulness of a giant manta ray slowly gliding by. Many dives are drift dives, along cliff faces or offshore rocks and pinnacles, and if conditions permit, the possibility of a night dive. Dolphins are plentiful. There's a good chance of spotting a family of killer whales too. Life is never dull, and the friendliness of the Galapagos sea lion will ensure that you're accompanied by at least one or two on almost every dive. The best time for diving is from November to June, with water temperatures reaching 25 degrees centigrade. Later in the year, temperatures can drop below 20 degrees, so a quarter-inch wetsuit is recommended throughout the year. Most dive boats in the Galapagos are fitted with the latest equipment to make your trip more comfortable. Photographers will enjoy the tameness of the animals and will have countless opportunities to get some of their best shots without ever having to reach for a zoom lens. In the evening, your guide will give you a brief on the areas to be visited the following day, and this will be followed by a video. Life on board is relaxed and informal, and by the end of your cruise, you'll have become quite a specialist on bird, marine, plant and reptile life found in these waters. Most cruises last for about a week, although longer ones are available on request. You can stay on after your cruise or go to mainland Ecuador to sample its cultural heritage. It's one of the smallest countries in South America, containing the richest concentration of birds, orchids and butterflies, and you don't have to go far to see them. It is possible to combine a cruise with a visit to the Amazon rainforest, some exhilarating whitewater rafting, or a hike to nearby snow-capped Cotopaxi, the highest active volcano in the world. You may want to do something more relaxing though. A scenic Highland Railway trip, or a visit to a local Indian market. But whatever your choice, whether alone or in a group, we will create a tailor-made holiday to suit your requirements. You won't have time to see everything on your first visit. Wildlife enthusiast, photographer, diver, holidaymaker, the Galapagos will inspire you in many of the ways it did Darwin, and your understanding of the natural world will take on a different perspective, leaving you bewitched and wanting to return to these unique, enchanted islands once more.